She kissed a stranger to stop her ex from approaching. Then the mafia boss pulled her closer. The rain in Harborview, Massachusetts, does not just fall, it attacks. It comes in off the Atlantic cold and hard, hitting the pavement of Lantern Pier like thrown gravel. It was well past 10 at night, and the neon lights of the market stalls bled into the wet asphalt, turning the ground into a shimmering, bruised watercolor of reds and blues. My name is Nora Salgado. I'm 23, and my shift as a medical dispatcher doesn't start for another hour, which is why I was clutching a pink box of donuts for my friend Maya, who was already deep in the 911 trenches. The air smelled of wet canvas, steamed dumplings, and the deep, briny cold of the harbor. I huddled deeper into my thin coat, the cardboard box already softening under the assault of the downpour. That was when I felt it. Not a sound, not a touch, but a shift in the air behind me, the kind of pressurized silence that precedes a lightning strike. I knew who it was before I turned. Evan Pike. He was supposed to be my past, but Evan never respected boundaries. He was standing 10 feet away, partially shielded by the awning of a closed fish stall. But he was not hiding. He was watching. His hair was plastered to his skull, and even from this distance, I could see the wet, frantic red ringing his eyes. It was the same look he'd had the night I left him, a mixture of bottomless self-pity and pressurized rage. My stomach hollowed out, my pulse, usually steady from years of handling emergencies over the phone, kicked into a frantic, uneven rhythm. He saw me see him. He pushed off the stall and started walking toward me, not fast, but with a predatory certainty that locked my feet to the pavement. "Nora," he called. His voice was rough, slicing through the drumming of the rain. "Nora, we need to talk." We did not need to talk. We had said everything. And when words failed, I had packed a bag and left. Talking was Evan's word for backing me into a corner until I agreed with him. Talking was his prelude to a scene. "Not now, Evan, I'm late for work." "You always say that." He closed the distance, and the smell of stale whiskey rolled off him, cutting through the clean scent of the rain. "You can't just walk away. We need to get this straight." He was close enough to grab me. People were starting to notice, their gazes sliding over us, lingering for a moment on the unfolding drama before respectfully looking away. This was Harborview. Public fights were background noise, but Evan fed on an audience. He thrived on my humiliation. My eyes darted around, searching for an exit, a security guard, anything. There was nothing. Just the rain, the neon, and Evan's escalating anger. Then I saw him. He was sitting alone at the small, three-sided outdoor bar that marked the end of the pier, nursing a small glass of dark liquid. He was an island of stillness in the chaos of the market. While everyone else was huddled or rushing, he simply sat, impervious. His suit was dark, expensive and damp, clinging to broad shoulders. He was not looking at us. He was looking out at the black, churning water of the harbor. There was a cold, self-contained energy to him, an absolute lack of agitation. I had maybe 1 second to decide. 1 second before Evan grabbed my arm, before he started shouting, before he shattered the fragile peace I had built. It was a reckless, stupid, cinematic impulse. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever done. I took 3 quick steps away from Evan and toward the stranger. "Nora, don't you walk away from me," Evan's voice cracked with fury. I reached the bar. The stranger turned his head slightly, his eyes dark and assessing finally landing on me. He looked older, 38, maybe 40. Strong jaw, a face that looked carved from hard experience. I did not pause. I did not ask. I put my left hand on the damp wool of his shoulder, leaned in, and kissed him. I fully expected to be shoved away. I expected him to curse, to stand up, to join Evan in demanding what the hell I thought I was doing. None of that happened. The man did not startle. He did not flinch. For half a second, he remained perfectly still, his lips firm and cool against mine. Then, as I felt Evan's presence looming directly behind me, The stranger's left arm moved with impossible smoothness. It circled my waist, not roughly, but with a definitive, possessive strength. He pulled me closer, shifting his body on the stool to shield me entirely from Evan's line of sight. He broke the kiss, but only by an inch. His face was now hidden from the pier, his gaze locked on mine. His arm was a steel bar at my back. He lowered his voice, a deep murmur that vibrated against my skin, barely audible over the rain and the sudden, frantic pulse hammering in my ears. If I say play along, you nod. I was too stunned to do anything but stare. His eyes were not angry. They were calm, calculating. He leaned back just enough to look past my shoulder, his arm never leaving my waist, his gaze lifted, focusing on Evan. He said nothing. He did not have to. The look on his face was a language all its own, a flat, cold warning that carried more weight than any shouted threat. I heard Evan make a choked, frustrated sound. What the hell, Nora? The stranger's grip on my waist tightened, a silent instruction to stay put. Screw this, Evan snarled. Screw you! I heard his footsteps, heavy and angry, splashing away. He was gone. Just like that, the threat dissolved. I was left trembling, my hand still pressed flat against the stranger's chest. The rain hammered down, and from a nearby street performance, the sound of metal drums beat a wild rhythm against the concrete. I tried to pull back, my brain finally catching up with my actions. I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. He wouldn't leave me alone. The stranger's arm loosened, but he did not release me completely. He let me create a sliver of space, just enough to breathe. He studied my face, his expression unreadable. Nicola Gallucci, he said. His voice was low, gravelly, and held a faint trace of an accent I could not place. 38. He seemed to be answering the questions he saw in my eyes. I own a port shipping company. He paused, and a flicker of something maybe irony touched the corner of his mouth. And I am the man the gamblers in this town quietly call the Lantern Lord. My blood went from hot with adrenaline to ice cold. The Lantern Lord. I had heard the name. Everyone in Harborview had. A name whispered in connection with the docks, with logistics that moved faster than the law, with a quiet, unshakable control over the city's undercurrents. Nicola Gallucci slid off the stool, standing to his full height. He was tall, and his presence seemed to push back the rain. He maintained a perfect, respectful distance, but his eyes were no longer on me. They were moving, sweeping the entire pier, from the stalls to the dark alleys between buildings. He was not admiring the view. He was mapping. He was assessing threats. He reached into his suit jacket and produced a folded, impossibly white handkerchief. He held it out to me. You're shaking. I took it, my fingers clumsy. Thank you for that. He's gone, Nicholas said. It was a statement of fact, not reassurance. Before I could respond, a new sound cut through the market, shouting, not angry, but official. Bureau of Civic Integrity. All vendors, present your permits. This is a spot inspection. A half-dozen people in black jackets, BCI emblazoned in yellow on the back, swarmed the pier. They moved with the clumsy aggression of petty tyrants, knocking over a stack of crates, sending people scattering. Chaos erupted, vendors cursed, customers fled. My instinct was to freeze. Nicola's was to move. His hand found my elbow. This way? He did not pull me. He guided me. He moved through the sudden panic with the fluid grace of a dancer, pulling me into the slipstream he created. We skirted a panicked vendor, sidestepped an overturned cart, and avoided the main cluster of agents. It was effortless. We were almost clear when one of the BCI agents, a thick-necked man with a face like spoiled meat, spotted us. He was trying to detain a young woman selling scarves, and he clearly did not like that we were walking away. Hey, you two, stop right there. I need to see your IDs. We're taking statements. He lunged for me, grabbing my arm just above the wrist. His grip was brutal, fingers digging into the bone. I said, stop. I cried out, a sharp gasp of pain and surprise. Nicola, who was a step ahead of me, stopped. He turned, not quickly, but with a chilling deliberation. He did not raise his voice. He did not lift his hands to fight. He simply leaned in, shifting his weight. He placed his left hand lightly on the agent's shoulder, as if greeting an old friend. With his right hand, he simultaneously covered the agent's hand on my wrist. It looked like a handshake. Then he applied pressure, a subtle, precise torsion. The agent's eyes widened, his face went pale. The brutal grip on my arm vanished, replaced by a desperate need to free his own hand. Nicola's motion was an exercise in leverage, a polite social gesture that contained terrifying power. He unhooked the man's fingers from my arm as easily as undoing a button. "We are leaving," Nicola stated. He did not phrase it as a request. The BCI agent, cradling his hand, just stared. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Nicola, truly looked at him, and whatever he saw there made him take a half step back. Nicola's hand was back on my elbow, steering me away. "Come." We walked away from the pier, leaving the shouts and the rain and the flashing lights behind us. We did not run, we just walked. No one followed. When we reached the comparative quiet of the street, under the sputtering glow of an old gas lamp, he finally stopped and turned to me. The pavement between us was dark with rain. I looked back at the receding chaos, then at the man in front of me, the man who had disarmed my ex with a look and a BCI agent with a handshake. I realized, with a sudden, sinking clarity, that my impulsive, desperate kiss had done exactly what I wanted. It had saved me from Evan. But it had also thrown me directly into the orbit of a man who was dangerous on a scale I could barely comprehend. The kind of dangerous that did not need to shout. The kind of dangerous that made the world itself go silent when he passed through it. I left Nicola Gallucci on the wet pavement, my hand clutching the white handkerchief he had given me. I did not look back. The walk to my Dockline apartment building was only 4 blocks, but it felt like miles. The lobby air was thick, smelling of damp carpet and old fry oil. The elevator groaned and shuddered its way to the 4th floor, its single light flickering. My phone buzzed in my pocket as I was fumbling with the lock. A text from my mother, Rosa. "Mia, Evan stopped by the old house, and he was looking for you. He seemed very agitated. Please be safe." A cold spike of fear shot through me, sharper than the harbor wind. He knew not to go there. He knew my mother was terrified of his temper. He had crossed a line he'd never crossed before. I finally shoved the door open and nearly tripped over the box on my welcome mat. It was a long, white florist's box, elegant and clean, tied with a simple black grosgrain ribbon. No card, no note. This was wrong. This was not my life. I nudged it inside with my foot and locked the deadbolt twice, sliding the chain across. I stared at the box. My heart was doing a heavy, sick thud against my ribs. This was not Evan. His style was gas station roses clutched in a fist, or, more recently, just shouting. I pulled the ribbon. Inside, resting on green tissue paper, were white lilies, waxy, perfect, and overwhelmingly fragrant. They smelled like a funeral. Tucked into the stems was a thick, cream-colored card. The paper felt heavy, expensive, embossed in severe black lettering. It read, "The Northbridge Endowment." I opened it. "Miss Nora Salgado, you've been nominated for our annual Career Development Scholarship. We invite you to interview with our board to discuss your future." It listed an address downtown. It listed a time, tomorrow afternoon, and it listed a grant amount that made me laugh. A short, sharp, breathless sound. It was too much. It was absurd. I had not been in school for 3 years. I worked the night shift routing medical calls. This was not a scholarship. It was a scam. But it was a scam that had been hand-delivered to my door. It was too good to be true. And in Harborview, too good to be true was just another way of saying, it's a trap. I tossed the card onto the kitchen counter, next to a bill from the electric company. The contrast was stark. My phone rang. Not a text, a call, an unknown number, but a local area code. I hesitated, then answered. It was a work habit. You always answer. Nora Salgado. The voice was bright, female, and aggressively professional. This is Nora. Wonderful. This is Cheryl from the Northbridge Endowment. We're just calling to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I just got the invitation, I said, stalling. I don't know anything about this. Who nominated me? Oh, it's our most prestigious award. Your nominator must think very highly of you. Her voice was smooth as glass, but the background. It was not a quiet office. The line was full of static, a strange electronic distortion, like the call was being bounced. Where did you get my address? I asked. From your nominator's file. Of course, we are so excited to meet. The distortion on the line suddenly spiked, and for a second, a different voice broke through, a man's voice, muffled, speaking quickly in the background. Just make sure Salgado shows. She's the only leverage we have on him. The line clicked, the static vanished. Cheryl's cheerful voice was back, but it sounded strained, a half beat too fast. So, we will see you tomorrow. Leverage. My blood turned to slush. I have to go. I hung up. I stared at the phone. Leverage. Leverage on who? My phone vibrated violently in my hand. A new text message. This time, I knew the sender. Evan. I saw you, Nora, on the pier. With him. Who the hell was that? My thumb jammed the delete button. My fingers were shaking so badly I missed it twice. Another text came immediately. You think you're better than me. You think you can just replace me and walk away. Delete. A third message. I still have those pictures. The ones from the lake trip. Maybe your new boyfriend would like to see them. Or maybe your mom. I stopped breathing. The threat landed, sickening and familiar. This was his move. The final, desperate checkmate when he was losing. My stomach roiled. I deleted the message, but the threat remained. Hanging in the air of my small apartment, I was trapped. Trapped by Evan's obsession, and now trapped by this bizarre, predatory scholarship. The phone buzzed one more time. I almost threw it against the wall. It was an unknown number, a new message. The text was short, just 5 words. Don't go. It's a setup. I stared, my pulse hammering at the base of my throat. I waited. A second message appeared, as if the sender knew I was watching. I can explain, if you're willing to listen. N.G. Nicola Gallucci. My mind raced, trying to catch up. How did he get my number? I had not given it to him. He had not asked. He had not seen my ID. The BCI agent had tried, but Nicola had intervened before I'd even taken my wallet out. I was being watched. By Evan, by Northbridge. And now by him, the Lantern Lord. Which cage was I supposed to choose? I chose the only one that offered an explanation. I texted him an address. A small, bright, terribly public coffee shop in the Old Ward. Halfway between my apartment and the docks, he agreed immediately. He was there first. He sat in a back booth facing the door. He looked different than he had in the rain. Sharper, dressed in a simple dark gray Henley and black pants. He looked less like a businessman and more like something carved from granite. He had a cup of black coffee in front of him that he had not touched. I slid into the vinyl seat opposite him. I did not take my coat off. How did you get my number? No preamble. You are listed as the emergency contact for Amaya Rios, he said. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the hiss of the espresso machine. My company handles the primary security contract for the city dispatch center. I ran your name after you left last night. It was so simple, so invasive. You ran my name. I did. He did not apologize. He just stated the fact. The flowers, I pressed, my voice low and tight. The phone call. Was that you? Some kind of test? He actually looked surprised. No, that was not me. Then, who are you, really, and what is the Northbridge Endowment? His dark eyes held mine. For the first time, I saw something other than cold calculation. It was anger, but it was banked low, kept on a tight, unforgiving leash. I am, he said, someone who dislikes seeing the weak hunted. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters tonight, he countered. The Northbridge Endowment is a front, a shell company run by a rival group called the Rook Syndicate. Their leader is Victor Rook. Rook? I knew that name. Everyone in Harborview knew that name. If Gallucci was the quiet, powerful shadow of the docks, Rook was the public-facing monster, the one tied to fentanyl, gun running, and open violence. My mouth went dry. What do they want with me? They do not, Nicholas said. They want me. He finally took a sip of his coffee. He set the cup down with perfect, measured precision. Last night was not an accident. Nora, your ex-boyfriend, Evan, did not just happen to find you on the pier. The BCI inspection was not routine. I stared at him. What are you talking about? My assistant, Sable, checked the logs. The BCI patrol changed its route at 7:05 p.m., diverting to the pier. 10 minutes later, Evan Pike appeared. He was herded. They were flushing you out. They wanted to see what you would do. Flushing me out? This was insane. Evan is he's a jealous ex with a temper. He's also a man with significant gambling debts, currently employed by a warehouse that Victor Rook controls. He is a tool. They used him to apply pressure. My head was spinning, but they couldn't have known that I would kiss you. No, Nicola agreed. That was an improvisation, a good one, but it confirmed what they were testing, that you were, or could be, connected to me. When you kissed me, you painted a target on your own back and on mine. He continued, his voice a flat, factual monotone. My team reviewed the pier's security footage after I left, the 2 inspectors who tried to detain you. They were wearing standard-issue police boots. Rook buys them in bulk through a uniform supply store he owns. They were sloppy. They were his men, posing as BCI. The call. Leverage. I whispered the word. His eyes sharpened. What? When Northbridge called to confirm, I heard someone in the background. They said I was leverage. You are, Nicola confirmed, nodding slowly. Rook has been trying to get at me for a year. He prefers to operate through proxies, through traps. He does not want an open war. He wants me to walk into a cage. You are the bait. The bright, warm coffee shop suddenly felt suffocating. I was just a dispatcher. I was just a girl trying to get away from a bad boyfriend, and I had, quite literally, kissed my way into a mob war. Evan, I said, my voice thick, he's threatening me. He has old photos. He's threatening to post them. Nicola's jaw tightened. A single muscle jumped. He will not. The certainty in his voice was absolute, and it scared me more than Evan's threat. You don't know that? I know that he is a pawn who has outlived his usefulness. Nicola held up a hand, stopping my protest, which brings us to your choice. You have 2 options. 1, you disappear. I have a place you can go. It is safe. It is clean. You would be gone by morning. Evan Pike would be dealt with. The Northbridge Endowment would find new bait. Or, I asked, though I was terrified of the answer. Or, he said, leaning forward just slightly, the scent of coffee and something cold, like the ocean, coming off him. We use the trap they set for us, and we spring it back on them. They want to use you to pull me out into the open. Fine. We give them exactly what they want. We stage a counterplay, but it will be dangerous, and it will require you to trust me. I looked at this man, the Lantern Lord, a man who ran background checks on strangers, who saw the world as a map of threats, assets, and traps. He was offering me an escape, or he was offering me a role in his dangerous play. Why, I asked, the word small. Why help me you don't know me? You kissed me in a crowd to escape a threat, he said. You did not scream. You did not cry. You acted. That is rare. He paused, his gaze unwavering. And I already told you I do not like watching predators hunt. He pushed his untouched cup away. The decision must be yours. Nora, I will not force you, but you must make it now. The office was a glass box hanging over the harbor. The rain from the coffee shop meeting had softened into a thick, clinging mist, blurring the lights of the container ships into soft, distant stars. Nicola Gallucci's space at Gallucci Port in logistics was nothing like the rest of the dingy, diesel-soaked docks. It was stark, silent, and clean. I was standing by the window, watching the mist. I had agreed to his plan. I had agreed to be the bait. "Rook doesn't just watch people," Nicola said from behind me. His voice was low, cutting through the silence. "He watches rooms. He studies environments. He looks for the flaw." I turned, and he was standing by his desk, which was a single, massive slab of polished wood. "How do you read a room?" "You look for what doesn't belong," he said, moving to stand beside me. Though he kept a respectful distance, he gestured to the main floor of the logistics hub, visible 3 stories below us. "But first, you find your exits. Always. I see 3 from this position. I scanned the elevator, the stairs I came up, and that fire escape on the far wall. Good. Now, reflections." He tapped the glass window. "The glass is your second set of eyes. Right now, I can see the entire hallway behind us. I can see the elevator doors. I never have to turn around to know if someone is approaching. Most people only look through a window. You must learn to look at it." I stared at the glass, and he was right. The hallway was perfectly reflected in the dark night, and the observers... The woman at the dispatch desk downstairs, she's been with me for 10 years. She hasn't looked up from her screen. The security guard at the gate, he's new. He keeps checking his phone. He paused. And the man in the blue sedan parked across the street. He's been there for 45 minutes. He's not new. He's just sloppy. My blood chilled. He's one of Rook's... No, he's one of mine. Watching the man who is... undoubtedly watching him from the roof of the warehouse opposite. This world was a maze of mirrors. I found myself hugging my arms, my old, nervous habit. I felt small again, like that girl on the pier. "Your posture is a liability," he said, his voice quiet, not critical. "You look like a victim. You are telegraphing fear. Stand up straight." I tried. I forced my shoulders back, but it felt wrong, like a costume. He moved, and I tensed. He stopped. "May I?" I nodded, my throat tight. He stepped behind me. I could feel the heat radiating from his body. He did not put his hands on my shoulders. Instead, he placed 2 fingers, just the tips, lightly on the ridge of my spine, right between my shoulder blades. "Breathe in," he commanded. "Hold it, now. As you breathe out, roll your shoulders back and down. Settle into your stance." I did as he said. The touch was barely there, just 2 points of contact, but it was electric. It was not familiar. Not a caress, not a threat. It was an instruction. It aligned me. My pulse was a frantic bird against my ribs, but my body felt steadier, rooted to the floor. "Better," he murmured, his voice close to my ear. He removed his hand, and the skin where he'd touched me tingled. I turned to face him, my breathing still uneven. The space between us felt charged. "Thank you," I whispered, "for last night, for pulling me closer." His dark eyes held mine. He did not smile, but the corners of his mouth softened almost imperceptibly. "Last night was for safety. Nora, this is for the truth." The shift was subtle, but it was everything. We were no longer benefactor and victim. We were partners in a deception. "If this is going to work," he said, moving back toward the center of the room, "they have to believe it. Rook's people are watching. They saw you kiss me. They saw me leave with you. Now, they need to see that you are not just a random woman. You are my woman." I hated the sound of that, the possessiveness, but I understood the logic. We're on a stage. "Exactly." He held out his hand. "They are watching this building. They are watching us through this glass right now, with long-range lenses. They need a show." I stared at his outstretched hand. This was the rehearsal. I placed my hand in his. His skin was warm, his palm calloused. He did not just hold my hand, he laced his fingers through mine, a gesture of casual, established intimacy. "Look at me," he said. "Not like I'm a stranger. Not like I'm a threat. Look at me like you did last night when you were desperate for a lifeline." I lifted my eyes to his. It was harder this time. Without the rain and the adrenaline, I saw the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the absolute stillness of his expression. I forced myself to soften my gaze, to remember the feeling of Evan's hot breath on my neck. "Better," he said again, his voice dropping. He raised our joined hands and lightly traced his thumb over my knuckles. My breath hitched. He stepped closer. We were standing in the middle of the glass-walled office. A perfect stage. "They need to see the connection," he murmured. "They need to believe this is real." He raised his other hand, not to my face, but to my hair, tucking a loose strand behind my ear. His fingers brushed the shell of my ear, and a shiver went straight down my spine. My palm grew hot in his. "You're afraid," he whispered. "I'm terrified." "Good, use it. But let them see you trust me more than you fear them." He leaned in, and I knew it was coming. I did not move. He was slow, deliberate, giving me every chance to pull away. He did not kiss my mouth. He rested his forehead against mine. I closed my eyes. I could feel his breath, warm and steady, against my lips. I smelled coffee and soap and the cold, metallic scent of the ocean that clung to him. We stood like that for a long moment, our hands locked, our foreheads touching. It was more intimate than the kiss on the pier. It was a silent promise. Then, slowly, he tilted his head. His lips brushed mine. A question. I did not pull back. He kissed me. It was not the desperate, frantic kiss from the night before. This was slow, deep, and devastatingly thorough. It was a kiss that spoke of ownership and quiet possession. A performance for the unseen audience. It was meant to be a lie, but my heart hammered against my ribs and my knees felt weak. He deepened it, and my fingers uncurled from his grip, moving to press flat against the hard wall of his chest. Just as my head started to spin, just as I was about to lose myself in the pretense, he pulled back. Just an inch. His breathing was as unsteady as mine. His eyes were dark, searching my face. "Is this okay?" he asked. His voice was a raw rasp. The question was the one thing I had never heard from Evan, the one thing I had never expected from Nicola Gallucci, that he would stop, that he would ask. I could not speak. I just nodded, my fingers tightening, grabbing the lapels of his dark vest. I pulled him back. Just a fraction, a silent answer. And then we both stepped back. The performance was over. We separated, pulling our hands apart, and a small, surprised smile touched my lips. He mirrored it, a quick, faint smile that changed his entire face before vanishing. We had held the line. We had respected the boundary. A sharp, discreet cough came from the doorway. A woman stood there. She was tall, impossibly calm, with a tattoo of a compass on her wrist. This had to be Sable Kincaid, the assistant he had mentioned. Nicola immediately took a half step back, creating a zone of neutrality around me. It was a formal, courteous gesture, but I knew what it was. It was him, giving me space, helping me regain my composure after our rehearsal. We had just built a harmony, a desire contained entirely by consent. "Sable," Nicola said, all business again. "The plan—" "The North Bridge Endowment called again," Sable said, her voice as cool and smooth as river stone. "They are awaiting confirmation for tomorrow." "Good," Nicola said. "Nora will call them back. She will accept the interview." I looked at him. "But you said it was a trap." "It is. So we are not walking into their location. You will tell them you are uncomfortable with the downtown office. You will proactively change the venue." He looked at Sable. "The Asterian Theater," Sable supplied. "It's been dark for 6 years. It's neutral territory, but we control the infrastructure. We've already installed a full audio-visual recording system, microphones and lights. When they talk, we will have the evidence." "Bridging," Nicola said. "We are bridging their trap to ours." He opened a drawer in his desk. He pulled out a small, simple velvet box. "They need to believe you are my fiancé, or at least that you are about to be. That is the only reason I would risk an open confrontation with Rook." He opened it, Inside was a silver ring. It was not flashy, just a simple band with a modest stone. It looked like an heirloom. "It's fake," he said, answering my unasked question, "but it has a micro-transmitter inside. It is not for tracking you," he added, his voice firm, seeing the look on my face. "It is not for later. It is for one night only. It ensures my protection detail can follow you precisely, from the moment you leave your car until the moment you are back with me." I looked at the ring. I looked at him. I was putting my life in this man's hands. "One condition," I said, and my voice was stronger than I expected. He waited. "After tonight, after this is done, all of it, the recordings, the data from this ring, my background check, everything you have on me, it must all be deleted." Nicola did not hesitate. Agreed. "I want your word." He extended his hand, not for a kiss, not for a performance, for a deal. "You have my word, Nona." I take his hand and shake it. His grip is firm, dry. His eyes meet mine, and the promise is absolute. It weighed more than any legal document. I let go of his hand. The office was quiet again, just the hum of the mist against the glass. Why, I ask, the question I've been holding since the coffee shop. Why really help me? You could have just made me disappear. This is... Elaborate. It's risky for you. He turned to look back out at the harbor, at the blurred lights of his kingdom. "A long time ago," he said, his voice distant, "when I had nothing, one person did not turn their back on me. I learned how not to turn my back." Sable cleared her throat. "The car is ready for you, Miss Salgado." The spell was broken. I nodded. I took the ring box and put it in my coat pocket. I walked to the door, my posture still straight, my shoulders back. I left. The scent of citrus from my hair seemed to hang in the air of his sterile, glass office. I did not look back, but I could feel him watching me. He stood at that window for a long time, looking at the reflection of the closing elevator doors. He was a man of perfect control, and I could feel the force of him, standing perfectly still, trying not to pull me back again until it was absolutely necessary. The Asterian theater was not just abandoned, it was decomposing. Moss clung to the velvet ropes in the lobby, and the air inside was thick with the smell of damp plaster, mildew, and decay. It was the perfect place for a ghost, or a shakedown. I pushed open the heavy oak door, the squeal of the hinges echoing into the cavernous dark. The silver ring Nicola had given me felt heavy on my finger, a cold, foreign weight. I was exactly on time. I stepped onto the main floor, my footsteps hollow on the dusty floorboards, the heels of my boots clicking. Hello, the Northbridge Endowment. A single, harsh spotlight clicked on, blinding me. It came from the stage, illuminating a small, flimsy card table and 3 metal folding chairs. "Right here, Nora, we've been waiting." My heart stopped. I knew that voice. It was Evan. He stepped out of the spotlight's glare, his smile a sickly, triumphant thing. He was wearing a new leather jacket, one I knew he could not afford. Beside him, 2 men in matching, ill-fitting suits stepped forward. They were not recruiters. They were a wall of cheap muscle, both with the same flat, dead eyes. "Evan, what are you doing here? I came to meet." "You came to meet me," he snapped, his voice high with false confidence. "And my associates." He gestured to the 2 men. "They're the ones who set this all up, the scholarship, all of it, to get your attention." The trap snapped shut. I was not just the bait. I was the hostage. I forced myself to breathe, just like Nicola had taught me in the glass office. Roll shoulders back, find the exits. I saw the main doors behind me, a red, glowing exit sign near the stage, and the heavy velvet curtains leading backstage. I was surrounded. "Impressive, huh?" I said. My voice shook, but only slightly. "All this, for me." I did not know it then, but high above, in the darkness of the catwalks and rigging, Sable Kincaid watched. She moved like a shadow, a headset microphone pressed to her lips. Nicola's team, the Lantern Court, were patched in. At her silent hand signal, they initiated the first counter move. A sound echoed from the deep orchestra pit, a sharp, dry cough, then a chair scraping the floor in the mezzanine, far above us. Evan's men tensed. "Who else is here?" one of them growled, his hand disappearing inside his jacket. "Just the rats, gentlemen," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. The sound system Nicola had installed was playing tricks, using the theater's own acoustics to reflect and amplify tiny sounds, making the empty, crumbling hall feel populated. It felt like we were being watched by hundreds. Outside, parked on a rain-slicked street 2 blocks away, Victor Rook sat in the back of a black SUV. He watched a bank of monitors displaying grainy feeds from inside the theater feeds he thought were his, but which were actually being looped and filtered by the Lantern Court. He wanted Nicola Gallucci. He wanted the Lantern Lord drawn out, desperate to save his new girlfriend, and once Nicola was inside, Rook would have him. He would force me to sign a compensation agreement for the emotional distress caused by Evan. Payable by Gallucci, a debt trap. Clean and simple. "So, what is this? Evan?" I asked, walking slowly toward the stage, my hands visible, away from my pockets. I remembered Nicola's training. Ask questions. Keep them talking. Force them to state their motive. The ring on my finger was live, the microphone catching every word. This is an opportunity," Evan said, puffing out his chest. "These gentlemen from Northbridge, they see potential in you, in us." "Right," the first thug said, his voice like gravel. He stepped forward, pulling a sheaf of papers from his jacket. "Let's skip the reunion. Sit down, Miss Salgado. We have a contract for you to sign." I ignored the thug. I looked only at Evan. "A contract for what? A scholarship?" "It's a compensation package," Evan said quickly, his eyes darting to the men beside him. For the trouble I caused. They're helping me make things right. They just need your signature to prove we're aligned." "You mean they need my signature to tie me to you?" I said flatly. "Nora, don't be difficult." Evan's nice guy act was cracking. "I'm protecting you here. These are serious people. Rook." He cut himself off, realizing his mistake. "Rook," I repeated. The name hung in the damp air. "So that's it. You're not his partner. Evan, you're his errand boy." "You shut up," he shouted. "I'm doing this for us, to give you a better life." "No." My voice was cold and clear, echoing in the engineered silence. "You are not doing this for us. You are doing this for you. You never loved me. Evan, you just like the feeling of controlling me. And now you've found a bigger bully to hide behind." Evan's face went purple with rage. He lunged, grabbing my arm. "You'll sign it." "Are you planning to sign her name with your hands?" The voice came from the main entrance. It was not loud, but it cut through the theater's heavy air like a razor. Evan froze. His men spun around. Nicola Gallucci stood in the main aisle. He was not flanked by bodyguards. He was alone, holding a closed black umbrella, the rainwater dripping from its tip onto the dusty floor, and he looked calm, almost bored, as if he had just stopped in to see a matinee. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Gallucci!" the first thug snarled, his hand emerging from his jacket, holding a gun. "I wouldn't," Nicola advised, taking a slow step forward. "My hands are clean. Yours, however, seem to be threatening a woman in a building you do not own." He looked past them, at me. "Nora, are you harmed?" "I'm fine," I said, pulling my arm free from Evan's suddenly slack grip. "You walked right into it, Lantern Lord." The second thug laughed, though it sounded forced. He held up the papers. "She signs, or she gets hurt, and either way, you pay. She owes the Northbridge Endowment a significant sum for breach of promise." "Breach of promise?" Nicola asked, sounding genuinely curious. He stopped at the edge of the stage, tapping his umbrella lightly on the floor. The promise of what, an education, or the promise that her ex-boyfriend, an employee of Rook's, would stop harassing her? "She owes," the man insisted, throwing the contract on the table. "We have the proof. The debt is real." "Is it?" Nicola asked. He lifted his other hand, which held a small, silver remote. I, too, have proof." He clicked the remote. The bright spotlight on stage snapped off, and a massive projector I had not even noticed flared to life from the orchestra pit. An image lit up the huge, decaying movie screen above the stage, bright enough to illuminate the entire auditorium. It was a contract, a different contract. "This," Nicola announced, his voice amplified by the theater's sound system, "is the actual contract from Northbridge's server." The thugs stared, confused. If you look closely," Nicola continued, "you will see the digital signature is a forgery, a rather clumsy one. And the corporate seal? It doesn't belong to Northbridge. It belongs to a small, underground printing press called Hollow Press, a company that Victor Rook uses to counterfeit city permits." Evan looked like he was going to be sick. The two men looked at the screen, then at each other. They had been exposed. Suddenly, the main doors of the theater burst open again, slamming against the walls. "BCI, nobody move, hands in the air." A half-dozen agents in their black Bureau of Civic Integrity jackets swarmed the theater, flashlights cutting the darkness. Rook's men grinned. This was their backup plan, called in by Rook himself. "It's about time," the first thug shouted. "Gallucci, he's the one you want. He's trespassing. He's threatening us." But the BCI agents did not move toward Nicola. They stopped, looking confused, their flashlights sweeping the room. The lead agent was looking at a printout in his hand. This isn't the tip we got," the agent said, lowering his gun slightly. "Of course it isn't," Sable's voice said, this time coming from the theater's main speakers, clear and cold. "The tip you got, officer," she named him, "was a false report. The tip we sent to your supervisor, however, was this." The image on the projector screen changed. It was no longer a contract. It was a spreadsheet, a payroll ledger. "This," Sable's voice explained, "is a private payroll list from the Northbridge Endowment. And look, it appears to list bonus payments to 3 active BCI agents, including you, officer." The BCI agents froze. The lead agent looked at the screen, his face white. His own men were staring at him. He had walked into his own trap. The raid fell apart instantly. In the chaos, Evan babbling, the BCI agents arguing amongst themselves, Rook's men realizing they had no allies left, Nicola moved. He was beside me in 2 long strides, his hand on my elbow. He pulled me toward the wings, into the backstage darkness. "This is our exit," he whispered, his voice urgent. "The show is over. Time to go." We were almost in the clear, but I stopped. I looked back at the stage, at the contract sitting on the table under the glare of the projector. I looked at Evan, who was cowering. "Wait," I whispered back. Nicola looked at me, his eyes questioning. "Let me finish this." Before he could object, I turned. I walked back out of the shadows, onto the stage. I picked up the sheaf of papers. All eyes, BCI, thugs. Evan snapped to me. "You wanted me to sign this," I said, my voice ringing with a calm I did not know I possessed. The ring on my finger was catching every word, every admission. "It's a fake contract," the lead BCI agent muttered, trying to regain control. "Oh, it's real," I said. I held it up, but I just wanted to read the fine print aloud, for the record. I found the clause. It says here, "The signatory, Nora Salgado, agrees to accept financial responsibility for liabilities incurred by her associates plural. It doesn't just mean Evan, it means anyone Northbridge decides to associate with me." I looked straight at the lead BCI agent. "It's not a scholarship, it's an indemnity clause, it's a blank check, it's leverage." I looked at Evan. "And this is what you wanted me to sign, to protect me." "You," the first thug started, moving toward me. "She's right," the BCI agent said, his face hardening. He had been played by Rook, and now he knew it. He pointed at the 2 thugs. "Arrest them and him." He jabbed a finger at Evan. Victor Rook's plan had not just failed, it had completely, spectacularly backfired, and I was the one holding the match. Rook's main thug let out a roar of pure rage. He was not going down. He lunged. Not for the cops, but for me. The thug roared and lunged, but Evan was faster. He was not faster in a fight. He was faster in his panic, in one last pathetic act of self-preservation. Evan grabbed me. He did not lunge for the thug. He lunged for me, yanking me backward, spinning me around, his arm locked across my throat, cutting off my air. "No, stop, get back," he shrieked, his voice cracking into a raw scream. He was using me as a human shield, not just against Rook's men, but against the BCI, against Nicola, against the world. "They'll shoot me. You'll let them shoot me," he sobbed, his grip tightening, dragging me backward off the stage. Nicola was already moving. He did not rush. He did not draw a weapon. He moved like smoke, his hands open and visible. "Evan," he said, his voice perfectly calm, projecting across the chaotic theater, "let her go." "Stay back. Gallucci." Nicola dropped his shoulder, inclined his head, and stepped into Evan's space. Not away from it, it was a disorienting, confusing move. Before Evan could process it, Nicola's left hand cupped his elbow, his right hand simultaneously securing the wrist of the arm, choking me. It was a soft, fluid motion, like a dance partner correcting a step. Then he applied pressure. Not a punch, not a break. It was a precise anatomical lock on the joint. Evan yelped, a high-pitched sound of pure pain. His arm instinctively spasmed open, his grip on my throat vanishing as he tried to relieve the pressure. Nicola did not hold me. He used the momentum to spin me out of the lock, pushing me straight into the arms of Sable, who had appeared from the wings like a ghost. "Get her to the exit," Nicola ordered. Just as Sable's strong grip closed on my arm, a loud, metallic clang echoed through the theater, as if a master circuit breaker had been thrown. Every light, the projector, the house lights, the BCI flashlights died instantly. We were plunged into absolute, suffocating darkness. Then came the hiss. A sharp, stinging smell flooded the air. Pepper, no. Stronger, tear gas. Chaos erupted, shouting, choking, men stumbling blindly over the theater seats. "Plan B," a voice snarled. It was not Nicola's. It was one of Rook's men. I was blind, my eyes starting to stream and burn. Nicola? I felt a solid body slam into me. It was him. "Cover your face," he yelled, his voice tight. He ripped his suit vest open and pulled my head against his chest, shielding my nose and mouth with the thick wool fabric. "Don't breathe deep. Come with me." His arm was a steel bar around my waist. He dragged me toward the stage wing. The only light was the intermittent, nightmarish flash of the emergency strobes, illuminating the pandemonium in horrifying, frozen-second bursts. Red, dark, red, dark. We plunged through the heavy backstage curtain into a narrow technical corridor. The air was slightly clearer here, but the acrid smoke followed us, burning my lungs. I was coughing, my whole body shaking, leaning against the cold cinder block wall. The red strobes flashed. Nicola grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to face him. "Nora, look at me." I could not. My eyes were streaming, clamped shut. I can't breathe." "Yes, you can." He put his hands on my face, his palms cupping my jaw, his thumbs brushing the streaming tears from my cheeks. The gesture was shockingly gentle in the middle of the violence. "Look at me, right here." I forced my eyes open in the pulsing red light. His face was a mask of intense, absolute focus. "Breathe with me," he commanded. "In now." He took a deep, deliberate breath. I tried to match him. Mine came out as a ragged cough. Again, it was slow. Match me. He inhaled slowly. I inhaled, shaky, but I held it. Out. We breathed. In, out, in, out. The frantic, terrified pounding in my chest began to slow, sinking to the rhythm he dictated. The panic receded. We were 2 feet apart, his hands still on my face, the distance between us evaporating in the red, flashing light. He nodded once. "We go." He grabbed my hand. We ran down the hall. He kicked the push bar on the exit door, and we burst out into the night. The rain was not mist anymore. It was a deluge, hitting the alley pavement like whips. It was cold, clean, and beautifully violent. We stopped, gasping in the fresh air, the theater's muffled shouts behind us. I looked at him. The rain plastered his dark hair to his head. He had saved me. He had coached me. He had asked me if I was okay. I was done being rescued. I grabbed the collar of his shirt, bunching the wet fabric in my fist, and pulled him down. I kissed him. It was not a performance. It was not a rehearsal. It was desperate, hot, and honest. It was a claim. My lips were hard against his, demanding a response. For a second, he was rigid with surprise, and then he melted. His arms came around my waist, pulling me off my feet, slamming me back against the rough brick wall of the alley. His mouth opened against mine, and the kiss went from urgent to consuming. My other hand came up, tangling in his wet hair. Our free hands found each other, fingers locking, squeezing, a desperate anchor in the storm. "Boss!" a voice shouted, splashing through the alley. Nicola did not break the kiss, but his body tensed. He shifted his weight, rotating us both, pulling me tight against his chest as something heavy slammed into the brick wall where I had just been. A man one of Rook's thugs from the stage slid off the wall, stunned. Nicola finally broke the kiss. Breathing hard, he looked at the groaning man, then at me. A wild, breathless smile touched his lips. I smiled back. We were a team. Car now, Sable's voice. She was at the alley mouth, by a running black sedan. As another man ran out of the theater, she threw a small canister. It did not explode with gas. It exploded with a blinding magnesium white light, a reflective smoke screen that turned the alley into a wall of white. Nicola shoved me toward the car. "Get in, passenger seat." We dove in, slamming the doors. Sable was already in the driver's seat, the car lurching forward before my door was fully closed. Headlights flared behind us, a black SUV. Rooks, peeling out to follow. "They're on us," Sable said, her voice calm. "Go to the industrial bridge," Nicola said from the front seat. "Nora, you're with me." Sable wrenched the wheel, the tires screaming on the wet street. The SUV was right behind us, gaining. "Sable, pull over at the bridge," Nicola ordered. "What?" she asked. "Pull over. Let them pass. We're not leading them. Boss, they'll corner us." "Do it." Sable slammed on the brakes just before the bridge entrance, swerving onto the gravel shoulder. The SUV, surprised, shot past us onto the narrow bridge. "Now," Nicola said. Sable threw the car into a hard reverse U-turn, tires spitting gravel, and we sped off in the opposite direction, plunging into the labyrinth of the dock warehouses. We lost them. 10 minutes later, we were in a silent freight elevator, rising. We entered an apartment that felt like a fortress. "The weather vane," Nicola said, his voice raw. It was beautiful, minimalist, clean, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the entire rain-swept harbor. I was shaking again, this time from cold and adrenaline. He disappeared into a back room and came back with a thick towel. He wrapped it around my shoulders. "You're safe." He made hot chocolate, not from a packet, real milk, real chocolate, heated on a stove in heavy mugs. I was in a gray sweatsuit he'd left for me. He was in a clean black shirt, his hair still damp. We sat on the low sofa, not talking, just drinking the cocoa, watching the storm. I finished the drink. I set the mug down on the low table, and he took it from me. His hand rested on the sofa, near my leg. The silence was thick, charged. He looked at me, his eyes dark, searching. "Nora, do you want—" He did not finish. He did not have to. He was asking for permission, just as he had in the office. I did not use words. I leaned in, and I placed my hand flat on his chest, right over his heart. I could feel the steady, strong beat beneath my palm. I nodded. He kissed me. It was the third time, and this one was different. It was not a performance. It was not desperate. It was slow. It was exploration. His hand came up, fingers tangling in my damp hair, cupping the back of my neck. My hand slid from his chest up to his shoulder, then to the side of his neck, my thumb stroking the rough stubble on his jaw. His lips moved from my mouth to my jaw to the sensitive spot just below my ear. My breath caught, a small gasp. His breath was hot on my collarbone. My fingers fumbled with the top button of his shirt. It came undone. Then the second, his hand slid from my neck, down my arm, his thumb tracing the line of my wrist. And then, together, we both paused. We pulled back, just enough to see each other. A slow, playful smile spread across my face. He mirrored it, a genuine, unguarded grin. "We should save it," I whispered, my voice thick. "We should," he agreed, his voice rough. He kissed my forehead, a long, warm press. He stood up from the sofa. "The bedroom is yours. The locks are secure. No one knows this address." I looked at him, confused. "Where will you sleep?" "This sofa is fine." He gestured to the long, comfortable couch. He was setting a boundary. After everything, after the fire and the rain and that kiss, he was giving me the power. He was giving me the room. He was proving, in the clearest way possible, that his protection was not a prelude to possession. I nodded. "Good night, Nicola." "Good night, Nora." I went into the bedroom and closed the door, feeling safer than I had in my entire life. Far across the dark, rain-swept city, in the back of his SUV, Victor Rook stared at the Asterion Theater, now swarming with legitimate police. His face was a mask of cold fury. "He used her to make a fool of me," Rook hissed to his driver. "If I cannot pull Gallucci into the light, then I will burn his light. Find out everything there is to know about Nora Salgado. Burn her to the ground." The morning light in the weather vane was clean and sharp, a stark contrast to the theater's smoky chaos. The storm had broken, leaving the harbor sharp and clear, the water a deep, cold blue. I had slept hard, but not long, in the apartment's main bedroom. When I emerged, I found Nicola already dressed in dark pants and a clean shirt, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a tablet in his hand. Sable Kincaid was at the small dining table, a secure laptop open, a cup of coffee steaming at her elbow. The truce of the night before was over. This was a war room. "Good morning, Miss Salgado," Sable said, her voice as crisp as the air. "I'm glad you're here. We've confirmed the Northbridge data architecture from the files we recovered at the theater." She turned her laptop screen. "It's exactly as we suspected, but worse. They weren't just a front, they were a harvesting operation. They used the scholarship as bait to data mine vulnerable young women. Students, single mothers, women in debt. They collected everything. Debts, medical histories, private correspondence, names of family members. Rook was building an arsenal." "An arsenal of what?" I asked, pouring my own coffee. "Leverage," Nicholas said, his voice hard. He had not turned from the window. "Human shields. If a politician, a judge, or a union boss caused him trouble, he wouldn't threaten them. He'd find their daughter, or their niece, and see if her name was on this list. He's been building it for years." "But the Asterion plan failed," I said, my voice gaining strength. "You exposed him." "We stopped a plan," Nicola corrected, finally turning to face me. His eyes were tired, but they held an intense, burning focus. "Not the plan. Sable's digging on Northbridge exposed the BCI connection, but that's just the street level. The real problem is the Commonwealth Bureau of Financial Integrity." The CBFI, I'd heard of them. They were the state-level watchdogs, untouchable. The men in suits who audited the auditors. "They are the real teeth of Rook's operation," Nicola said. "He spent the last 5 years infiltrating their audit department when he wants to cripple a legitimate rival. He doesn't send thugs. He triggers an anonymous tip. The CBFI freezes their assets. They lock their accounts. They seize their inventory. By the time the target is cleared of wrongdoing 6 months later, they're bankrupt. Rook buys their assets for 10 cents on the dollar. This was a different world. It was clean, corporate, and infinitely more terrifying than a man with a gun in a dark theater. "He's done this before," Nicholas said, his voice going flat. He crossed to a bookshelf set into the wall and pulled down a thick, leather-bound ledger. He placed it on the table between us. It was old. The pages were yellowed, the entries written in a beautiful, archaic script. "This was my father's," he said. "Atticus Gallucci. I heard he died," I said softly. 15 years ago, Nicola confirmed. "A tugboat accident in the channel, faulty engine. That was the official report." "You don't believe that?" It was not a question. "He was a legitimate man," Nicola said, his finger tracing a line in the ledger. "He was what they called a clean don. He controlled the port, but by contracts, not by fear. He refused to do business with men like Rook's predecessors. 6 months after he refused, the CBFI launched a surprise audit. They found irregularities. They froze our assets for 90 days. It nearly broke us." He looked up, his eyes black. 2 weeks after the audit, his tugboat's engine failed. Rook, who was nothing back then, was the primary beneficiary. He took over the container contracts we lost. This isn't just business for him. Nora, it's a long game. My eyes fell to the ledger. There was handwriting in the margins. Notes Atticus had made to himself. One sentence, underlined twice in faded ink. Caught my eye. I read it aloud. "To protect is to give them a choice." Nicholas stopped. He looked at the words, then at me. The air in the room shifted. That single sentence defined the chasm between him and Rook, and it defined the man who had given me the bedroom while he took the sofa. As if summoned by the thought, my phone rang. It was on the counter, charging where I'd left it. The screen lit up with a name that made my stomach clench. Evan. My first instinct was to throw it against the wall. My second was to look at Nicola. He nodded once. "Answer it. Put it on speaker." I picked up the phone. My hand was perfectly steady. "Hello, Evan." "Nora, oh God, Nora, don't hang up. Please, you have to help me." His voice was not angry. It was thin, reedy, and absolutely terrified. He was crying. "Help you," I said, my voice cold, "after you put your arm around my throat. They're going to kill me. Nora, I'm serious. Rook is furious. He said I failed. He said I'm a loose end. He has those pictures, the ones I told you about, and all my gambling debts. He's holding them over me. He's going to ruin me, and then he's going to make me disappear. I'm trapped." I felt nothing, just a vast cold pity. "What do you want, Evan?" "I can get out, I can run, but I have nothing. Please, Nora, you're with Gallucci. He's rich. Just get me some cash, enough to get to Boston. That's all I'm asking." I looked at Nicola. He watched me, his face impassive, letting me lead. This was my choice. "I'm not giving you money, Evan," I said, my voice steady, "but I will give you a trade." "Anything, what anything?" "The evidence. You were part of Northbridge. You weren't just muscle. I want the hard drive, the real one. The one with all the data Sable was just telling me about. The leverage. I want the files on every single woman they targeted." "What, Nora? I can't," he whimpered. That's Rook's personal database. He keeps a master backup. If he finds out I took it, he's already planning to kill you." "Evan," I said flatly, "you said so yourself. This is the only deal you have left. You bring me that drive, and I will ensure you have a way out. Not money, a way out." He was sobbing now, a desperate, gasping sound. Okay, I can get it. I know where he keeps it, at the old printing press. Okay." We set a time, noon. I hung up the phone. "I have to go," I said to Nicola. Absolutely not, Baraz, he said, instantly. His protective mask slammed down. "It's a trap. He's compromised. I'll send Sable." "No," I countered. "He's not compromised. He's terrified. He's not smart enough to set a trap right now. He's just trying to survive. He won't trust Sable. He'll bolt. He knows me. He knows I keep my word. It has to be me." Nicola's jaw was tight. He was fighting his instinct to lock me in this room. "Nora, this is not a game. He put his hands on you." "I know." I looked at him, and then at the open ledger on the table. To protect is to give them a choice. This is my choice. Nicola. His anger deflated, replaced by a look of stunned, grudging respect. He stared at me for a long moment. Fine, he said, his voice rough. You go. But on 2 conditions. 1, it is in a public space, bright, crowded, nowhere to hide. 2, I will have visual protection on you every second. Fine. No, he said, holding up a hand. You choose the protection. You choose how you want to be watched. That way, you are in control. You pick the method. I thought about it. I did not want men in suits lurking in corners. I did not want guns and earpieces. You, I said. I want you to be the one watching, but I don't want him to see you. I don't want to see you. I just want to know you're there. I chose the Maple and Ash Library. It was the oldest building in Harborview, a massive stone structure with soaring ceilings, sunlight streaming through towering, stained glass windows. It was bright. It was full of students and old people. It was the antithesis of the Asterian Theater. I sat at a heavy oak table in the main reading room, sunlight painting colored diamonds on the floor. I was not the girl in the rain. I was not the woman in the theater. I was someone new. I felt calm. Evan skidded in at noon, looking like a rat in wet clothes. He was pale, sweating, and clutching a backpack to his chest as if it were a life raft. He looked around wildly, his eyes darting to every corner. Where is he? He hissed, sliding into the chair opposite me. He's not here, I said calmly. This is just us. Evan. He's watching, isn't he? I'm dead. This is a setup. You're only dead if you run, I said. Did you bring it? His hands were shaking so badly he could barely work the zipper. He pulled out an external hard drive and slid it across the table. I took it and slid it into my bag. Good. So, the money, the car, he demanded. His voice too loud. A librarian at a nearby desk looked up, her finger to her lips. There is no money, I said. I told you, a way out. I slid a single piece of paper across the table. It was a bus ticket. It leaves in 1 hour. To Philadelphia. From there, you're on your own. A bus ticket, he almost shrieked. That's it, Rook will find me in a day. He might, I said, standing up. But we won't. This is your only chance. Evan, you get to start over. And you get to do it without those pictures. Which, by the way, you will delete. All of them. Or what? He sneered, his old pathetic bravado trying to surface. Or I give this hard drive and your name to the police, and I let them decide what to do with you. This is more mercy than you deserve. He stared at me. He saw the truth. I was not the girl he could bully anymore. He snatched the ticket. He stood up, his face a mask of bitter resentment. You've changed, Nora. You're cold. I looked at him, and the last, lingering shred of fear I ever had for him just evaporated. No. Evan, I said, my voice quiet, forcing him to lean in. I'm just not scared anymore. We all have to learn how not to hurt anyone anymore. This is your chance. Go. I turned and walked away. I did not run. I did not look back. As I pushed through the heavy oak doors, I glanced across the street. Nicola was standing in the shadows of an alcove, his hands in his pockets. He had been watching through the tall, clear glass. Not the stained glass window I had imagined. He had watched the entire exchange. He stepped out, his expression unreadable. It was a mixture of fierce pride and something else. Something new. It was fear. Not a fear for me, but a fear of losing me. A fear that the woman he had just seen, the woman he had helped create, was now strong enough to walk away from him too. We did not speak on the drive back to the weather vane. The silence was heavy, but not uncomfortable. When we got inside, I took the hard drive from my bag and handed it to Sable, who was already waiting, plugged into a secure terminal. It took her only a few minutes. The drive was not encrypted. Evan was not that smart. I'm in, she said, her voice tight. He was right. It's all here. Every woman, every file, hundreds of them. Her face was grim. Look for active projects, Nicola ordered, coming to stand behind her. What is he planning now? Sable typed. We watched the screen. A folder, dated today, popped up. The project name was simple. Operation Fish Scale, Sable read. She clicked it. It was not a file on a person. It was a logistics plan. A map of the East Pier warehouses, Nicola's warehouses, a list of chemicals, a projected weather report for the next 48 hours, noting high winds coming in from the northeast. What is it? I asked. Nicola stared at the screen, his face hardening into marble. He's not just trying to seize my assets anymore. He's going to burn them. He's going to set a fire at the East Pier and frame us for it. And once our city contracts are revoked, he'll sweep them all up. I finished, the cold realization dawning, just like he did to your father. The air in the weather vane was static. Sable, Nicola, and I were the still point in a coming hurricane. Operation Fish Scale, Nicola repeated, the words tasting like ash. He's using my father's playbook against me. He's overconfident, Sable said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She was communicating with the rest of the Lantern Court, a team I now understood was not just muscle, but a sophisticated intelligence unit. His plan relies on two things: the CBFI to cripple you legally, and the hollow press to handle his money laundering. The drive Evan gave us confirms the link. We can move. A technician's voice, filtered through Sable's laptop speaker, laid out the digital counterattack. We can use the data on this drive as bait. We'll package Rook's own money laundering transactions from HoloPress and leak them to the corrupt agents at the CBFI. We'll make it look like an internal power struggle. They'll tear each other apart to seize the assets, and Rook will be caught in his own net. No. The word was out of my mouth before I had time to think. Nicola and Sable both looked at me. No, I said again, stronger this time. This hard drive, it's not just data, it's people. It's hundreds of women. If we use this drive as bait, we are doing exactly what Rook did. We are using them as leverage. I will not be a part of that. Sable sighed, her expression impatient. Miss Salgado, this is a war. There will be collateral damage. Not this time, I said, planting my hands on the table. I know these women. I am one of these women. We have to warn them. We have to get them clear. That's impossible, V, Sable argued. There are over 200 names. We don't have time. I have time, I said. I'm a dispatcher. I handle panic for a living. I can make the calls. I can tell them what to do, who to contact, how to protect their data. We get them safe first, then we spring the trap. Nicola had been watching me, his face unreadable. He held up a hand, silencing Sable. He looked at me, and the respect I'd seen at the library was back, solid and bright. You lead, he said. I'll protect. It was a total transfer of power. Sable, to her credit, nodded once and spun her laptop toward me. The list is yours. My team will support your calls, route them through secure lines. The weather vane became a different kind of war room. We worked for hours, the sun setting and the harbor lights twinkling on. We were a team. I sat at the main table, a headset on, making call after call, my voice low, calm and urgent. This is not a prank. Your name is on a list. You need to lock your credit. You need to change your passwords. You are not alone in this. Nicola worked beside me, shoulder to shoulder. He was coordinating the logistics of the counterstrike, but his presence was a physical shield. The tension was not just about the plan, it was about us. He passed me a fresh USB drive, his fingers brushing mine. The contact was a jolt of pure electricity, making my breath catch. I ignored it and kept talking. Hours later, I passed him a stack of printouts outlining the HoloPress financials. Our shoulders touched, a brief, accidental press of his solid muscle against my arm. We both froze for a fraction of a second, the air between us crackling. Before he took the papers and I turned back to the phone, the work was a wall we were both hiding behind. It was well past midnight. My throat was raw, my eyes burning. I stood up, stretching until my back popped, and walked to the kitchen for water. I felt his eyes on me. I stopped and gathered my hair, pulling it back from my face, my arms raised, twisting it into a knot. I could feel his gaze, not as an intrusion, but as a physical touch. He was not just watching me. He was watching the long, exposed line of my neck, the curve of my shoulder. It was an intense, unguarded look of pure possession. I finished with my hair and turned to face him. He did not look away. He did not pretend he had not been staring. I walked back to him, and he was still seated, looking up at me. "You look exhausted," I whispered. "I'm fine," he lied. "No, you're not." I leaned down. Energy boost. I kissed him. It was not the slow, exploratory kiss from the night before. It was short, firm, and purposeful. It was a kiss of partnership, a jolt of shared life in the middle of the darkness. It was meant to be quick, but his hand came up, not to my face, not to my hair, but to the small of my back. His fingers splayed out, pressing me firmly against his body for 1, 2, 3 seconds. The contact was a brand, a claim, burning right through my shirt. Then I pulled back. His eyes were dark, his breathing a little less steady. "Back to work," I said, my own voice shaky. "Back to work," he agreed. A chime came from Sable's laptop. She had been working on a separate terminal, digging deep into Rook's infrastructure. "I found it," she said, her voice electric. "Found what the CBFI linked?" Nicola asked. "No, something better." She put an image on the main screen. It was a sleek, modern skyscraper in the financial district. The hard drive Evan gave you was a working backup, but Rook's too paranoid for that to be the only one. This is the Gull Spire, his cold storage. According to the building specs I just acquired, there is a sub-basement vault. That's where he keeps the real ledgers, the master leverage. Nicholas stared at the screen, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. He's hiding in plain sight. Operation Fish Scale is tomorrow night. He'll be focused on the docks. His primary security team will be moving to set the fire. He looked at me, and his plan formed. We split them. Sable, you and the Lantern Court will handle the counter-strike. Stop that fire before it starts. Use the data bait to lure the CBFI into hollow press. Burn their operation to the ground. "And you?" Sable asked. "Tomorrow night, while Rook is watching the docks, he'll be leaving his vault exposed." He looked at me. "We are going to Gull Spire. We are going to walk into his vault, and we are going to take everything." "Wait!" I held up my hand. The power he had given me was still mine, and I was going to use it. "We are not just taking it. That ledger doesn't just have Rook's financials. It has the rest of those women's lives on it. I will not have that data fall into the hands of the CBFI, the police, or anyone else." "What do you propose?" he asked, his expression serious. "A fund," I said, the idea coming to me clear and strong. "The Safe Harbor Fund. You will create it. Tonight, you will fund it with real money, a non-revocable transfer. It must be completely separate from Gallucci Logistics, completely separate from the Lantern Court. It will be a clean, legal entity. We will use that ledger to identify every single victim, and we will use that fund to make them whole, pay their debts, get them lawyers, get them new homes. We make them safe. We don't use them." I expected him to argue, to negotiate, to tell me it was too complicated. Nicola looked at me for a long, silent moment. Then he turned to his assistant. "Sable, get my personal attorney on a secure line. You have full authority. Set up the transfer. Whatever amount she says. Make it non-revocable. Do it now." He turned back to me. He did not have to say anything. My eyes softened. He had not questioned it. He had not hesitated. He just trusted me. The mood in the room shifted. The moral crisis was over. The heist was on. Nicola brought up the blueprints for the Gull Spire vault. It's an old building. The security is new, but the bones are old. Silent alarms, weight-sensitive plates in the floor, cameras covering every angle. We'll have a 2-minute window after Sable triggers a power surge. We'll have to move fast, in perfect silence, and in the dark. He stood up and pushed the coffee table aside, creating an open space on the hardwood floor. "We have to move as one. No words. Give me your hand." I took his hand. He pulled me into the center of the room. I move, you move. This is a tango. Nora, follow my lead. He put his hand on my back, the same place he had touched me earlier, and it was just as electric. We moved. Step, he murmured. Pause. Turn. We moved across the floor. It was not a dance. It was choreography. Step, step, turn, duck. His body was a solid guiding force. Then I saw the flaw. I looked from the blueprint on the screen to his intended path. No, I said. He stopped. What? You're leading into a blind spot, but the camera on the far wall will catch your shoulder. You're too broad. I have to lead this part. I'm smaller. I move first. You follow my shadow here. Before he could react, I reversed the hold. I put my hand on his shoulder and spun. Step, now. Turn. I cover you. He was surprised, but he was a perfect partner. He followed my lead without a single misstep, adjusting his weight to mine. I spun under his arm, guiding him into the shadow of a virtual pillar. He stopped, holding me, and a sound escaped him. It was a short, sharp, genuine laugh. It was so rare, so unguarded that it stunned me more than any kiss. It seems you lead, he said, his voice rough with an emotion I could not name. We lead together, I corrected. We practiced for another hour, until the movements were second nature, until our bodies understood a language our mouths did not need to speak. Finally, we stopped. It was almost dawn. The plans were set. The calls were made. The fund was established. There was nothing left to do but wait. We stood at the massive window, side by side, watching the first gray, watery lights of dawn touch the harbor. The city was quiet. I was exhausted, my body thrum. With a mixture of terror and adrenaline. I did not think. I just did it. I leaned my head sideways and rested it on his shoulder. He did not flinch. He did not tense. He just stood there, a solid, warm presence in the cold morning light. We watched the sun come up. There were no words, no promises of forever. There was just this moment. And it was real. The night of Operation Fish Scale was a beautiful lie. Harborview was alive, celebrating the annual Night of the Unicorn, the festival of the paper fish lanterns, thousands of them lit from within by small candles, drifted on the dark, calm water of the bay. They were meant to guide the souls of fishermen home. Tonight, they were our cover. Nicola's team, the lantern court, had melted into the festival crowds, their dark clothes indistinguishable from the shadows of the celebrating locals. Nicola and I were not at the festival. We were a mile away, in the cold, sterile heart of the financial district. We were dressed in black, functional gear, moving like the shadows the tourists were celebrating. The gull spire was a glass and steel tomb, its lobby bright and empty, its security desk unmanned. We did not use the lobby. A service entrance in the rear alley, its electronic lock bypassed by a signal from Sable, opened into a concrete stairwell. We descended 3 flights, into the sub-basement. The air was cold, dry, and smelled of ozone and industrial cleaner. We moved like we had practiced, the silent tango. There were no words. My hand on his shoulder, guiding him past the blind spot of the first camera. His hand on my back, pressing me flat against the wall as a timed patrol passed. We were 2 halves of a single shadow. We reached the vault. It was a massive circular steel door, looking more like a prop from a movie than a real object. Nicola knelt by the biometric panel, his hands working with a small, specialized device. He was 2 seconds from finishing. The elevator at the far end of the corridor dinged. We did not run. We flattened against the wall, disappearing into the alcove by the vault. But it was not Rook's muscle. It was not a lone security guard. The elevator doors opened, and 6 figures in full BCI tactical gear fanned out, weapons raised, their movements precise and practiced. And leading them, a woman in a severe black suit, her hand resting on the holstered pistol at her hip. I felt Nicola freeze beside me. It was not a freeze of fear. It was a freeze of pure, absolute shock. Mara, he breathed. The name was a whisper of disbelief. Supervisor Mara Vex stepped forward, her heels clicking on the polished concrete. She looked at Nicola, her face a mask of what looked like sad, maternal disappointment. "Hello, Nikki. I always taught you better than to use the service entrance. It's so predictable." "You shouldn't be here," Nicola said. His voice was flat, all surprise erased, replaced by a cold, hard wall. He stepped away from the wall, shielding me slightly. "This is Rook's vault." "I know exactly what it is," Mara said. "And I know why you're here. You think you're avenging your father. That's always been your weakness, Nikki. The past. You're still that same angry kid I found on the docks." "Rook killed him," Nicola bit out. "This ends tonight." Mara smiled. It was a thin, cold, terrible smile. "No, he didn't." She held up a small, government-issue datapad. She tapped the screen and turned it to face him. It was a photograph, a live feed image, the timestamp in the corner reading just 2 days ago. A man, gaunt, with a ragged gray beard, but with Nicola's same unshakable eyes, sat chained to a chair in a dark, concrete room. "Atticus Gallucci is very much alive," Mara said, her voice dripping with clinical detachment. Nicola did not just flinch. He physically recoiled, as if she had struck him with a club. The sound he made was not a word, just a sharp intake of breath, the foundation of his entire life, the 15-year vendetta, the grief, the why of everything he did. It all just turned to dust. "Alive," he whispered. "Rook has been holding him for over a decade," Mara explained, her voice calm, like a doctor delivering a diagnosis. "In a private, off-books holding facility, a place called the Blackwater Foundry. This whole thing, Northbridge, the traps, your little girlfriend, it was never about you, Nicola. It was about him. Rook doesn't want your business. He wants the port, the original harbor charter your father refused to give up. He's been trying to get you to sign it all over, and when you wouldn't, he's been using your father, piece by piece, to make you—" Nicola was staggering. He was not looking at Mara, not at her soldiers. He was looking only at the datapad. His world had been reduced to that 4-inch screen. The Lantern Lord, the man of perfect control, was gone. He was just a son, and he was breaking. I grabbed his hand, not his arm, his hand. I squeezed, my nails digging into his skin, a sharp, grounding pain. I forced his gaze off the screen and onto me. "Nicola," I whispered, my voice low and urgent. "Look at me. If he is alive, you save him, but you do not sell your soul to do it. Do you hear me?" He looked at me, his eyes unfocused, then clearing, latching onto mine. He was back. Mara Vex watched us with a cold, analytical curiosity. "She's good, Nikki, but she's right. Rook is the disease. I'm offering the cure." "A deal," Nicholas spat, his voice rough. "A transition of power," she corrected. "You want your father. You want Rook gone. Cooperate with me. My team will hit the Blackwater Foundry. We'll retrieve Atticus. We'll take Rook down. All you have to do is give me this vault. My office will absorb its assets. We'll use Rook's own leverage to clean house. And in return—" She paused. "The Gallucci file, the BCI investigation into your family, your business, it disappears. A clean slate, Nicola, for you and for your father." It was a beautiful, elegant trap, a political execution. They were not fighting crime, they were absorbing it. They wanted Rook's power for themselves, and they were using Nicola's father as the key. Before Nicola could answer, his earpiece, the one I knew connected him directly to Sable, chirped, loud enough for me to hear. Boss Sable's voice was tight, all calm gone. "It's a problem. Operation Fish Scale. It's happening. Now." Rook didn't wait. "The East Pier warehouse. Bay 4. The accelerant sensors are lit. The fire's already started. He's going to blow it. I don't have the assets to cover Gullspire, Blackwater, and the pier. We have to choose. Boss, we have to choose now." The blood drained from Nicola's face. His father, held in a secret prison. his legacy about to go up in flames. His entire world was being torn in three, and Mara Vex was standing right in front of him, offering a poisoned crown. "I have to go," he said, his voice a low growl. He looked at Mara. "I have to get my father." "Nikki, don't be a fool," Mara warned, her hand moving to her weapon. "Come with me. It's the only clean way out." He ignored her. He looked at me, his eyes tortured. "The pier, the workers, Nora, I made the choice, the one he could not." "You go to Blackwater," I said, my voice cutting through his panic. "Go! Get your father! That is your fight!" "And the pier," he whispered, agonized. "That's my fight," I said. "Sable and I will stop the fire. We have the access codes. We warned the women. We can warn the night shift. You go, we split. We cover both." He looked at me like I was insane. "Nora, that's not... It's a fire. It's Rook's heavy muscle. You can't..." "I'm not the girl from the pier. Nicola..." I grabbed the front of his tactical vest, my knuckles pressing against his chest. "You taught me how to read a room. Now go. We are out of time." Mara Vex actually scoffed. "You're splitting your forces. He'll kill you all. This is amateur." Nicola ignored her. He looked only at me. He saw the iron in my spine. He saw that I was not asking. I was telling. He made his decision. He grabbed my arm and pulled me into the stairwell, away from Mara's eyes. The heavy fire door slammed shut, plunging us into the pulsing red of the emergency lighting. He did not say anything. He grabbed my face with both hands, his thumbs digging into my cheekbones, and he kissed me. It was not a kiss of romance. It was not a kiss of love. It was a kiss of desperation, of fear, of transferring every last ounce of strength and fury he had directly into me. It was brutal and deep and lasted only 5 seconds, a lifetime. He pulled back, his forehead pressing against mine. His breathing was ragged. "Come back to me," he commanded, his voice raw. I looked him dead in the eye, my hands flat on his chest, feeling the frantic pounding of his heart. "If you are still you," I whispered. He understood. "If you don't burn down the world to get him back..." He nodded, a single, sharp nod. He released me. He turned, kicked the stairwell door open, and faced Mara Vex and her soldiers. "Your deal is crap, Mara. Stay out of my way." He was gone, a shadow running up the stairs, toward the foundry, toward his father. I turned and ran down, toward the street, toward Sable, toward the fire. The East Pier was hell. The air was not just cold, it was thick with the chemical, eye-watering stench of accelerant. The night of the Unicorn Festival, a mile across the bay, was a cruel, beautiful joke of tiny, perfect lights, while here, the red alarms of the fire system strobed across the shipping containers, ringing in our ears. "He did not just start the fire," Sable yelled over the din, her face a grim mask in the flashing light. She was holding a small sensor. "He planted a secondary, a cold charge. It is meant to blow the entire pier, fire department and all." I saw them, the night shift, a crew of maybe 15 men, trapped on the loading dock by the small, contained fire. Rook's men had set as a distraction. They were yelling, confused. "We have to get them out," I shouted. "We have to find the bomb," Sable countered, her gaze sweeping the yard. "We do both." I ran to the main security booth, locked from the outside. I smashed the small window with my elbow, reached inside and grabbed the PA microphone, slamming the all-call button. My voice boomed out over the yard, amplified, steady. It was not Nora's voice. It was the voice I used at 3 a.m. for a multi-car pileup, the voice that cuts through panic. "This is Nora Salgado with Port Authority. This is not a drill. There is a confirmed explosive device on the East Pier. All personnel, evacuate immediately via the West Gate. Do not run. Walk calmly to the West Gate now. This is not a drill." My heart was a hummingbird against my ribs, but my voice was ice. The men looked stunned. Then as one, they turned and started moving, a coordinated, fast-paced evacuation. I was doing my job. Across the city, the Blackwater Foundry was a cathedral of rust and steel, a long dead industrial giant. Nicola moved through the steel-grated corridors, his footsteps silent. The only light came from the sputtering blue arc of welding torches left on in the distance, casting long, monstrous shadows. He was not here to fight. He was here to reclaim a ghost. He found Rook on the main foundry floor, standing near a massive, glowing vat of molten steel. Rook was alone, flanked only by a single large iron cage covered with a tarp. "You're late, Gallucci." Rook smiled, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. He was relaxed. He was in control. "Your girlfriend and the witch are busy with the fireworks. I assume you came here knowing the price. You just needed to see the merchandise." He kicked the base of the cage. "Wake up, old man. You have a visitor." "Oh, it's not in the warehouse," Sable yelled, her sensor beeping frantically. "The signal is up. It's high." We ran out of the warehouse, the evacuees now clear. I followed the line of thick, black cable Sable was tracking. It ran from the burning containers, bypassed the control room, and went straight up the side of the massive yellow gantry crane that dominated the pier. "The control box," I pointed, my voice raw. "It's wired to the crane's main junction." 33 seconds, Sable said, looking at her device. The timer had activated. "I'm climbing," I said. "Nora, no, that's 90 feet. I'm smaller, I'm faster." I was already moving, grabbing the cold iron ladder. The rain had started again. The same hard, driving rain from the first night. The metal rungs were slick. I climbed, my arms burning, my lungs raw. The wind up here was a monster, trying to peel me from the ladder. Sable stayed below, her body braced against the base, using her own back as a windbreak against the worst of the gusts. A man inside the cage stirred. Rook grabbed the tarp and ripped it away. An arc light flashed, illuminating the figure inside. He was thin, emaciated, his hair a matted white, his beard ragged, but his eyes were pure Gallucci. They were bright, intelligent, and filled with a cold, clear fire. It was Atticus. Nicola stopped. His breath left him. "Father!" "Nicky," Atticus's voice was a dry rasp. You look old." Rook laughed, a short, barking sound. He slid a set of documents and a pen onto a nearby oil drum. "The port charter. Nicola, sign it. Transfer all Gallucci assets, all harbor charter rights, to my holding company. Do it, and you can take the old man home." Nicola stared at his father. This was the moment. The hesitation Mara Vex had predicted. Atticus looked at his son. He saw the pen. He saw the fracture in Nicola's armor. "Don't do it, son," Atticus rasped. "Don't you dare! Don't let them use me as an anchor to pull you down into their mud. I'm already dead. Don't join me." "He's touching, isn't he?" Rook said. "Sign the paper. Gallucci." Nicola's hand moved toward the pen, his body shaking. "No," Atticus said. He looked at his son, his eyes sharp. "You taught me something. Nicky, I read it in one of your letters. To protect is to give them a choice." As Rook looked at Nicola, Atticus's hand, hidden in the shadows, was working. He'd had 15 years. He'd been working on the lock. He slid a thin metal shim, broken from the heel of his shoe, into the crude keyhole. The lock clicked. I reached the top platform, crawling over the edge, gasping. 30 seconds. The box was right there. The timer a bright red digital readout. 0, 3, 0. I ripped the cover off. It was a mass of wires. "Sable, which one?" I yelled into my comms. "It's the red loop cutting. It will not work. It's a dead man's switch. You have to cut on the light cycle. Cut on the green pulse." A small green light on the circuit board was flashing. On, off, on, off. 0, 2, 1. I held the wire cutters. My hand was shaking. "Breathe with me." I took Nicola's breath. 0, 1, 5. The light went green. I cut. 0, 1, 4. The timer froze. Silence. The alarm bells died. The strobe stopped. I was left kneeling on a steel platform, 100 feet in the air, the rain pouring down, the festival lights of the Night of the Unicorn twinkling across the bay. The pier was safe. I grabbed my comms. "Sable, it's done. I'm heading to Blackwater." "Good, I'm already en route." Her voice crackled. I switched channels to the private one he had given me, the one in the ring he thought was still on my finger. "Nicola, can you hear me?" A burst of static. "Nicola, the pier is safe. It's done." I looked at the lights of the city, at the life I had just saved. "Don't sign. I'm waiting for you." My voice crackled in his ear. "The pier is safe. It's done. Don't sign. I'm waiting for you." Nicola had been reaching for the pen. He heard my voice. He heard me. He stopped. He looked at Atticus, who had just slid the open lock from his cage door. Nicola let out a breath. He was back. He doused the pen, snapping it in two, and threw the papers into the vat of molten steel. They vanished in a flash of flame. "No!" Rook screamed, his plan turning to ash. Rook did not hesitate. He ripped a pistol from his waistband and aimed it, not at Atticus, but straight at Nicola's heart. "Then you die with him." He fired. It happened in a fraction of a second. Atticus, energized by a freedom he had not tasted in 15 years, lunged. He did not jump in front of the bullet. He shoved Nicola hard, sending him stumbling backward. The bullet tore through the air where Nicola's chest had been, catching Atticus high on the shoulder. It was a graze, but it spun him around. Rook raised the gun again, ready for the killing shot. Atticus Gallucci spat a mouthful of blood onto the steel floor. He looked at Rook and grinned, a bloody, triumphant snarl. "Still got bones?" he rasped. Rook pulled the hammer back. The side door of the foundry exploded inward. Sable Kincaid was there, not with a gun, but with a riot baton. She moved with blinding speed, her strike hitting the inside of Rook's wrist. Bones snapped. The gun clattered to the floor. She followed with a strike to his temple, and Victor Rook crumpled, his reign over. Nicola scrambled to his father, grabbing him, holding him up. "You're okay," Nicola whispered, his voice thick. "I've got you." "I know," Atticus said, leaning on his son. "It's over," Sable said, cuffing Rook's hands behind his back. But it was not. "Well, well, well." The voice echoed from the steel walkway above them. Mara Vex stood there. Her BCI agents fanned out behind her, their weapons trained on Nicola, Sable, and Atticus. She walked down the stairs, her applause slow and mocking. "Bravo, Nicky. You got the old man. Sable took out the trash, and Nora... Well, Nora saved the day. You all played your parts perfectly." She stopped in front of the defeated Rook. Sable tensed. "Don't worry, dear," Mara said to Sable. She reached down and, to Nicola's horror, offered her hand to Victor Rook. Rook took it, and she pulled him to his feet. "Good work, Victor," Mara said, unlocking his cuffs. "You really made him believe it." Nicola's blood turned to ice. "Mara, what is this?" Mara Vex smiled, brushing dust from Rook's lapel. "This is governance. Nicky, the BCI does not fight crime. We contract it, we manage it. Rook was an asset, not a target, a very messy, chaotic asset. But now I have his network. I have your father, and I have you." She took the gun from one of her agents. "The board is clear." Mara Vex aimed the pistol, not at Rook, but straight at Nicola's head. "The problem with loose ends, Nicky," she said, her voice chillingly calm, "is that they snag, and you, your father, your little girlfriend. You are all snags in a very clean system." She was going to execute him, to silence him. I was not on the crane. I had climbed down that 90-foot ladder in under a minute, my hands raw, my heart pounding. I had sprinted to the service vehicle Sable and I had used, the engine still running. I did not know where Blackwater Foundry was, but my comms unit had Nicola's location. I drove, ignoring lights, ignoring the sounds of the festival, my eyes fixed on the navigation dot. I saw the glow of the foundry, the blue arc light painting the sky, just as I heard Sable's frantic report of the betrayal over the comms. I slammed the car to a halt, skidding on the wet cobblestones, and ran. I burst through the same side door Sable had used. The scene was a tableau from hell. Rook, standing smugly beside Mara, Sable, held at gunpoint by BCI agents. Atticus leaning heavily on a steel girder, and Nicola facing Mara, his face pale, his eyes locked on the barrel of her gun. She was tensing her finger on the trigger. Stop. My voice was a raw shriek, echoing off the high steel ceiling. Mara froze, startled by the new arrival. Every head turned. And in that second, the ring on my finger, the one Nicola had given me, did its job. It was not just a tracker. It was a fail-safe. My shout, amplified in the cavernous room, hit the specific acoustic frequency the lantern cord had programmed. It was not a bomb. It was a rescue. Outside, the world lit up. A bank of high-intensity stadium lights hidden on the rooftops of the surrounding buildings by Nicola's team as part of their contingency plan flashed on. They were not aimed at the pier. They were aimed right here. They flooded the foundry's open loading bay and the street outside, turning the entire scene from a dark alley execution into a brilliantly lit stage. Every shadow evaporated. Mara shielded her eyes, cursing. "What is this? Cut the power!" But it was too late. The light was not the only thing that had arrived. A new sound joined the chaos sirens, not police, but fire trucks, the trucks from the East Pier. And running alongside them, confused, angry, and drawn by the sudden light, were the dock workers. The 15 men I had evacuated. They flooded the yard, witnesses to the impossible. "That's her," one of them shouted, pointing at me. "The girl who saved us." "And that's Gallucci," another yelled, pointing at Nicola. Sable, in the confusion, had her hands free. She was not reaching for a weapon. She was holding her phone, its camera live. "We are streaming," she announced, her voice calm and clear. "To the Harbor Watch Community Channel. The entire city is watching you. Supervisor Vex." The live chat on the stream, visible on her screen, was exploding. Mara Vex's face, illuminated by a dozen spotlights, turned white with rage. She was exposed. She had lost control. "Arrest them," she shrieked at her men. "Arrest them all! This is a BCI operation." Her agents hesitated, looking from her to the cameras, to the sea of civilian witnesses. "A bulletin from the Harborview City Council," a voice suddenly boomed from the PA system of one of the fire trucks, patched through by Sable. "By Emergency Ordinance 112, the authority of the Bureau of Civic Integrity on port lands is hereby suspended, effective immediately, pending a full investigation. All BCI personnel are ordered to stand down." The civilian government had cut her off at the knees. The BCI agents looked at each other. They lowered their weapons. It was over. Rook knew it. He let out a desperate animal roar. He was not going to prison. He lunged, but not for Nicola. He lunged for me, the closest target, the one who had started all of this. He grabbed me, his arm locking around my throat, the same way Evan had. He pressed the barrel of his own backup pistol to my temple. "No, everyone back," he screamed, dragging me toward the shadows. "Back, or I kill her. I'll kill her right here." Nicola stepped forward, his hands open and empty. He had dropped his weapon. "Let her go, Rook," he said, his voice raw. "It's me you want. Take me. Let her go." Rook laughed, the sound hysterical. "You'd trade yourself for her. You really are a fool, Gallucci." He was going to do it. He was going to pull the trigger. "No," I whispered. Nicola looked at me, his eyes wide with terror. I looked back at him, my eyes wet, but shining with a fierce, bright light. "You taught me to choose," I said. I stomped my heel hard onto Rook's instep, breaking the bone. He roared in pain, his grip loosening for a fraction of a second. It was all I needed. I dropped my weight, spun inside his arm, and drove my elbow backward into his ribs. He choked, staggering. I did not stop. I used the move Sable had taught me, the one I had never practiced. I grabbed his wrist, the one holding the gun, and I twisted. I put my entire body into it, a sharp, violent rotation. A snap echoed through the foundry. The gun clattered harmlessly to the floor. Rook collapsed, screaming, clutching the ruined, broken angle of his wrist. I stood there, breathing hard, free. I had saved myself. Silence. The only sounds were the rain, the sirens, and Rook's pathetic whimpers. The dust motes from the fight swirled in the bright spotlights. The dock workers were cheering. Nicola was staring at me, his face a mask of awe, relief, and a love so profound it knocked the air from my lungs. I ran to him. I did not care about Mara. I did not care about the guns or the streaming cameras. I launched myself at him, my arms locking around his neck. He caught me, his own arms crushing me to him, lifting me from the floor. I kissed him. I kissed him in the middle of the bright, artificial light surrounded by the wreckage of our enemies, with the sound of sirens and the cheers of the city as our soundtrack. His hands cupped the back of my head, his fingers lost in my hair, my hands pressed flat against the rough, unshaven stubble of his jaw. Our breathing was ragged, desperate, tasting of smoke and rain and victory. Then we slowed, we pulled back, just enough to rest our foreheads together. We were both breathing hard, both shaking, and then, surrounded by the chaos, we both smiled. Atticus Gallucci limped over, leaning on Sable's shoulder. He looked at his son, then at me. "I see you picked one who knows how to save herself," he rasped, a proud smile on his face. "Good." He held out his good hand to me. I shook it. "They call him the Lantern Lord," Atticus said. "But you, child, you're the lighthouse." The city council, in an unprecedented move, authorized a temporary Port Judicial Commission, run by the Dock Workers Union and local merchants, to oversee the investigation. Mara Vex and Victor Rook were taken into custody not by federal agents, who would bury the truth, but by the city. They would face civilian justice. The next day, Nicola Gallucci held a press conference. He announced the permanent dissolution of the Lantern Court as a private entity. In its place, he publicly unveiled the Safe Harbor Fund, the one I had demanded. It was now a fully chartered public foundation, endowed with his personal fortune, dedicated to protecting and compensating the victims of Northbridge and all other corporate welfare schemes. That night, the weather vane was quiet. The city was finally, truly at peace. Atticus was safe in a private hospital, recovering. The case was closed. I stood by the window, watching the last of the paper fish lanterns being cleaned from the bay. The storm was over. I heard Nicola come up behind me. I turned, and he was just standing there, watching me. I walked over to the open window, the night air cool on my face. I slid it shut, the sound a quiet, final click. I turned to him. I did not say anything. I just held out my hand. He took it, our fingers laced together. I pulled him close. The kiss was slow. It was not desperate, not triumphant. It was a promise. Our hands moved, his finding my waist, mine finding his neck. We sank down onto the low sofa, a tangle of limbs and relief. His shirt came unbuttoned. One, then two, his skin warm under my palm. My breath hitched as his lips moved to my collarbone. And then, just as the night before, we both paused. We pulled back, our faces inches apart. A slow, knowing smile spread across his lips. I giggled, a sound of pure, unadulterated peace. "We have a lifetime," he whispered, his voice rough. "No need to rush." I kissed his jaw. "We have a lifetime." Outside, the last of the paper fish lanterns went dark. The sun was coming up. Harborview was breathing. Thank you so much for listening to our story. We would love to know where in the world you are tuning in from. Please drop a comment below to share your thoughts and say hello. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe to our channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and give this video a like. It helps us immensely. And if you really loved it, please support us by hitting that hype button to help this story be heard by more people.